Hi everyone, this is Ashutosh, and today we'll be doing a Edge webinar where I'll be showing you how to create an application, an Edge application, and a little bit more details about the market opportunity that we have with Edge application. So before we start, just a quick housekeeping items. If you have any questions during our webinar, so you can post them to the Q&A box that you can locate on your screen. If you are facing any technical issues like you're not able to hear my voice or you are not seeing the slides, again you can post them in the Q&A box. The session is being recorded and it's going to be available under bit.ly/stp webinars, where you can go and check out the details later on. And at last, please do provide us the feedback for this webinar. It will help us improving the content quality for our future webinars. So my name is Ashutosh Sharma and I'm from Samsung Developer Program team. We are located in Mountain View, California, and we are here to help you with any of your queries related to Tizen, Android, or theme tool, any queries that you might have for the tools and services provided by Samsung for mobile devices. Also, make sure to join the Samsung Developer Program. That's freely available. You can go and sign up for the developer program, and it will help you. That's how you can reach out to us, by submitting ticket for your technical queries, and you can submit other requests like promotion request or any queries that you might have. So just a quick walkthrough for the upcoming webinars. On April 20th, we have a webinar for the Samsung Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus devices, where we'll be talking more in detail about the list of available services and the possibilities that you have with the Samsung Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus devices. Then the next webinar is going to be on April 20th, where we'll be talking more in details about the Gear controller, the Gear VR controller. More in details about the Gear VR controller. And then we have a webinar on May 11th where we'll be talking about DeX and how can you make your application DeX compatible and how you can increase the productivity using the DeX service. So before we start with the details about the Edge application, let's do a quick pulse check. So you will see a thumbs up and thumbs down on your screen. I just want to know, like, how many of you know about the Edge application or have any prior experience with the widget application in Android, and how many of you are like new to the Edge application or have never developed any Edge application. So if you have prior experience with Edge application, click on thumbs up. If not, you can click thumbs down. So we'll wait here for a few minutes and see what audience we have today with us. Okay, so it's exactly half of the audience is aware with the widget or the Edge application, and half of the audience is doing it for the first time. So just a quick intro. The Edge application, it's somewhat similar to Android widget application, and the only difference is the way it's launched and the way the user navigates or interacts with the Edge application. It helps our user for accessing the widget through its usable, more intuitive and visual interface. So now I'll quickly walk you through the user experience on how the Edge application looks on the user device and how they actually interacts with the Edge application. So let's get started. So this is a video recorded on an ACID Edge device. So I'll swipe in, and you see that bar on the right side of the screen. I swipe on it, and here are a couple of Edge panels that are already available on my device. Tapping on the gear icon will show the list of installed Edge application. So these are the Edge application already installed on my device. And if I want to download more, I'll click on download, and it takes me to this screen where I'll see the available applications that I can download. I can even go ahead and search for new application. So I previously searched USA Today, and I'll tap it on again. So you see the second option from the top says USA Today Edge. So once I tap on install, it actually installs the application. So the trick here is, even if the user installs the application, he'll still not be seeing it under the list of active Edge panels. He need to go in and activate it by tapping on the checkbox at the top. So let's see where we have. So here's the USA Today application. I tap on it, and when I go back, now if I swipe between the panels, I'll see the USA Today application here. And it's a list view with quick and glanceable info about the news item. I'll tap on the gear icon again. And so you must have noticed that few of the Edge panels at the bottom has an edit option, and few of them not. So after enabling CNN, I see the edit option. This edit option will allow us to customize the content on the Edge panel itself. So here I'm decreasing the number of news items on an application, and see, I reduced it to 2. Now I can only see 2 news items from CNN. Again, if I tap on the settings, and I can again increase it to the 4 items, and this is how, particularly for this application, I am customizing the content as per my requirement. Now let's minimize. There's other way of going to the Edge screen. So go to the settings, locate the display option. Let's scroll down, and here's the display option. And inside it, there is an Edge screen. Now these options might be different depending upon the device model, but you can always locate it in both the places. So there are Edge panels and Edge lighting available on ACID device. Tapping on Edge panel will again take me to the same screen where we were making changes with the Edge panel. You do have an option to uninstall the application from here. And if you go in there, you'll see all the applications that you can uninstall. And this is how a user can uninstall the application. So now let's see how the user actually interacts with our Edge panel. So if I swipe it in and bring in and tap on any of the news item within CNN app, this app, the panel app, will look up for CNN application if it is installed on my device or not. So I tapped on an item, and I can see that the CNN app is not installed. Now user has the option that he can even open that news item in a browser or install an application. So I uncheck it and tap on CNN app, and it takes me to the store where I can go in and download the CNN main application. Now once this main application is installed, second time when I go to the panel and I tap on any of the news item, it should automatically take me to the main application without asking me further about where do I want to open it. So let's wait for this application to be installed. Okay, now I'll close this screen, go back to the CNN app, tap on any of the news item, and yep, here we are in the main application. And yep, so that was all about how a user interacts with your Edge application. Now let's move on to the next slide. So what are the market opportunities or possibilities we have with the Edge application? So let's first talk about the devices that supports the Edge application. So all the devices that has the Edge hardware on it that supports the Edge application. there is Samsung Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus that only got released in the Edge version, whereas we had S7 Edge, S6 Edge, S6 Edge Plus Note 4 devices, and that all devices supports Edge application. Okay, so these are this is a quick market check that we've done with our top 20 Edge application within the time frame of April till August 2016. So we observed that these top 20 Edge application had created more than 239,000 app installed within 4 months. That is equals to 60,000 install a month. Talking about the worst performer, it created like 1,000 downloads a day, whereas the best performing app creates around 4.7 thousand downloads per day. So you can see here like the traffic that's coming in through the Edge application. If your Edge application gets promoted in our store, and again for promotion request you can send in us a ticket for submitting your application for promotion request, and if your app gets promoted, it helps you increase the download 4 to 5 times than a regular download. So this is about a particular application. They had their main application published already in the Galaxy Store, and they also created the Edge application for their main application. And we observed that once they released the Edge application, their main app install got increased by 10 times. So this is how it works. If a user has your Edge application already installed on the device, and he is using your application like I just demoed you about the CNN application, and he tries to get more details or want to get deeper into details about your application, you can always deep link it with your main application, and that's how you can get extra downloads. And in this particular case, it was 10 times more. So till date, we have approximately 42 million plus addressable market for Edge devices, and unlike earlier, now we are only coming up with the Edge versions as there is a huge demand in the market for the Edge devices, and there are less than 200 Edge applications in the market. So there is a huge opportunity in here. Now user will be using the Edge devices, and they'll be looking for more useful Edge application, and that's where you can publish your application and get more downloads and more users. Now we'll be taking a deeper dive into the technical details about the Look application and how its architecture look like. So this is a diagram where we show how our Look SDK works. If you see at the very bottom, we have libraries, all the default libraries of Android framework. And then there, at the top of it, there is an application framework which has view system, package manager, and all those details. So our Look SDK, which exists in between application layer as well as in the between the application framework, we have a Look SDK and Look support, two things. To be more specific, two different jar files. So those two jar files uses the view system from application framework, and you can use the APIs available in Look SDK to create your own Edge application. Now the type of Edge applications that we have. There is an Edge single mode, Edge single plus application. Then there is an Edge feeds and immersive mode. So we'll be talking more in details about the Edge single plus during our for this webinar, as Edge feeds is no longer available from S8 devices, and Edge immersive it's got deprecated from Android N. So let's take a look at what those different type of Edge application means. So if you download the Edge SDK from our website, you can see in the screenshot here. So once you go to the developers.samsung.com website, go to the Galaxy section, and From there you can locate the Edge Look SDK, and once you download it, you will get an Look SDK for version 1.4 as of now, and that has many things in it. That includes the programming guide. Inside the libraries folder, you can see the SDKs that you will be using for creating application. Then there is an Look, which is not exactly related to the Edge application, but I'll explain more in details what that is used for. Then there is a sample application that you can play with it and get to know more about how to develop an Edge application. And then later on, there are tools which contains how you can run your application on a simulator which doesn't have an Edge on it. So let's move on. So Edge Single Plus. So Edge Single Plus, the video that I demoed just now, that was showing up the Edge Single Plus, also known as Edge Panel. It has a width of 550 pixel, and it supports from MOS onward, that is Android Marshmallow. This is Edge Single Plus, which is very much similar to Edge. This is Edge Single, which is very much similar to Edge Single Plus. The only difference is it is smaller in area in compared to the Edge Single Plus, where Edge Single Plus is 550 pixel. This is much smaller than that, and it will only show on the edge part, or only on the edge of your device. Now this is Edge Feeds. It will show up on the turned off or inactive screen. When a user swipes up and down, he can invoke the Edge Feeds panel, and that's how he can swipe between different Edge feeds. Again, this is only available before S8 devices. Okay, Edge Immersive, it acts as a sub window, and it's only for the Note 4 device. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. So Look SDK components. So we have a Look SDK jar file and SDK version 1.4 jar file. The Look SDK, the Look version 1.4.0 jar is the one that contains all the APIs and methods that used to be created for Edge application, whereas SDK is for the standard functionality to detect whether it's a Samsung phone or it has the Edge on it or not. The package that we import is con.samsung.android SDK Look. And just at the bottom of the screen, you will see a permission. So this permission is used for from Android M onward, as there is a change in the permission architecture. So we need to provide this permission so that our Look SDK can function properly within our application. So if you are creating an app which is prior to M application, you don't have to add this permission, but mostly in the case, it's always recommended to use this permission, as you never know where your application will be running on, or it's like mostly on the most recent application, most recent Android OS. So once you initialize the Look SDK, and if there is an exception, there can be two different type of exception. One is a vendor not supported, that means it's not a Samsung device, or even if it is a Samsung device, it might throw an exception saying that the device is not supported, that means the device doesn't have an Edge on it. So this is how you can filter the devices where you are running your code. Then there is an API that is known as is feature enabled, and it takes an int type parameter in it, and that int type can be cocktail bar or cocktail panel. So cocktail bar is only used for Edge feeds. So if you want to see whether the device supports Edge feeds or not, you will use this API is feature enabled and pass the cocktail bar in it. And if it returns true, that means it supports Edge feeds. If it returns false, then no Edge feeds. And cocktail panel is for all the remaining type of Edge application, that is Edge Single Plus, Single, and Immersive. So here I've explained the integer type that we'll be using in that previous API called is feature enabled. Let's move on to the next slide. So this has a wider UI. This is a single plus mode. It has a wider UI. It only works from Android M, that is Android Marshmallow onward. And there is intent filter that we'll be using for single plus. This is that's the second point on the slide, says com.samsung.android cocktail.v2 action Android update. So this is an intent filter that we use for invoking the Edge single plus. Then same details about the Edge feeds. Let's move on to the next slide. So implementing an Edge application. So let's get into the details. So first we'll talk about the manifest file. This entire Edge application is based on remote views, and we have a class SLOOK cocktail provider. So, and that's where you write all the code related to your Edge panel application. It's more of a similar as an activity in Android. We have extended the remote views for the SLOOK cocktail provider class, and that class you extend in your application and create a provider class. Now, the portion that is marked in green talks more in detail about the intent filter and the metadata. So intent filter, that is what we add for depending on the type of your Edge application. So if it is a Edge feeds, you will add this intent filter. If it is an Edge single plus, then it will have a v2 in it, and that will talk in the next slide. Where's the metadata file? It contains the detail about how your Edge application will look like. That means what should be the width, or what should be the background in the preview screen, and like the refresh interval. So we'll talk more in detail about the metadata file and its content on the later slides. So let's move on to the next slide. So this one, you will notice that the intent filter has a v2 in it, and that's only for the Edge single plus. And then again, it has a metadata file in it, and that metadata file defines the feature or the configuration of your Edge application. So this is a sample screenshot of all the options that can be there inside the metadata file. So I'll walk you through one by one. So first one is label. That one is equivalent to your Edge application name. The second is description. Description is shown on the, so once you swipe in and bring in the Edge panel, the other side of it contains the name of your application, and that's where the description about your Edge panel is mentioned. The preview image is the one that is shown once you install the application and is showed under the installed panel screen. So like once you go to the Edge panel settings screen, and there you see all the installed Edge panel, there you will see the preview screen for your Edge panel. Then there is an update period millis. That is in millisecond, and that explains how frequently you want your Edge panel to be refreshed. Then there is an visibility changed. So while the user is swiping between different panels, if you want to capture the event where it says when it's coming to the visible state and when it's not, that's when you provide this permission is either true or false. Then there is a configure. So configure is like I showed you an example of CNN Edge application where you want to configure the content on the Edge screen. You tap on the edit option, and you see an activity where you can go and make the changes to the content which you want to display on the Edge panel. So similarly, you can mention the class file in here, the activity, and whenever the user taps on the edit option, that activity will be launched, and there you can do all the configuration changes to your or the content customization for your Edge panel. Third is the cocktail width. It can be maximum up to 550. It's a variable width, and it defines the width of your Edge application. Then launch on click, it's the activity that is launched on click of the name of your application that shows on the other side of the panel. And finally, we have category. This tag is only applicable for feeds application. If you are creating feeds, then you'll have to mention category as feeds. If not, then you can just don't have to mention anything about the category. I'm sorry. For the last tag, category, I'll explain you more in details on the later slides, like what should be the category for different type of edge applications. So on these slides, I've talked about the different tags that I just explained. So this is a sample of a provider class which extend the slook cocktail provider class, and that's what it's equivalent to the activity of your normal Android application. Once you extend this class, you can override all its method, and the major methods inside this provider class is on update. So whatever you want to do in on update, like you want to, so once the user changes the content of your edge panel, or he disables or enables your edge panel, that's when this on update is called, and that's where you can do all the necessary steps. Then there is on enable. It's specifically for once the user disable or enables your edge application. So there is on enable and on disable. Then there is an on receive. This method is called for every broadcast before all of the above callbacks method. And then visibility change is once the user swipe between different panels and it comes to your edge panel. That's when you can capture the visibility change status. Again, for this, you need to mention on visibility change under the metadata file as true. Then only you can capture this event. These are the remote views object that you can these are the layout that you can support within the remote view object, like the frame layout, linear layout, and rest of the layout that are listed in here. Now, what are the major APIs within the slook cocktail manager class? It's the get instance. You can get the instance of the slook cocktail manager class. Then there is an update cocktail. That's when you set up the items within the list item within the list view. Then there is a notify cocktail view data change. Again, when there is a change in the content of your edge panel, that's when it gets invoked. Then the last one is set on pull pending intent. This is when the user, this is a new API that got introduced in the most recent update, and this actually, this event is invoked when the user swipe in the list view or the pull the list view. That's when it's invoked. Then the long click. So these are the extra events that got introduced in the most recent SDK update. These were not earlier there. The long click, pull to refresh thing, like set pull intent, and then and so on. So this is a code snippet of how to implement pull to refresh. The first line says that action pull to refresh. There you can define your own string, whatever you want for that particular event, and set the pending intent. And you can again capture that string once this action is performed, and that's when you can perform all the data update or whatever things that you want to do while the pull to refresh action. These are the sample code snippet of how to do the long click. So there are two code snippets in here. One is the set long click pending intent, and the other one is like set on long click pending intent template. One is used for a particular a single layout object where you can set in the long click pending intent, whereas the other one is like set on long click pending intent template. It's for collection views. It can be like a list views or grid views, and that's where you want to set up the long click for each item. You can use this template. Here's the quick code snippet of how to use the long click pending intent. And again, I'll be taking you through the sample application development process where I'll be demoing you everything about how to actually use it within your code. So let's move on to the next one. So these tags are added within the manifest file. These metadata tags, actually there are two things, name and value. One is the com.samsung.android cocktail mode, and the second is the value, what kind of mode this application is. Now, if you are creating a combined application that contains main activities, or that contains activity like your main application as well as the edge application, so if that's the case, please don't use this metadata tag, because that's how Restore will identify your app as an edge application or a standalone edge application. So let me just quickly add one thing. So there can be two ways you can develop an edge application. There can be a combined application, which means that you are combining the edge application within your main Android application. And the second is creating a standalone edge application. So if you are creating a standalone edge application, you should add this metadata tag within your manifest file. But if you're creating a combined application, then you should not add this metadata tag, because if you add this tag, Restore will identify your app as an edge standalone application. So that's an important thing to notice here. Now, just a quick walkthrough about how to use simulator if you don't have actually the access to the edge device. So once you download our SDK from our developers.samsung.com website, there is a tools folder inside it, and that will contain all the necessary resources that you would need in order to use simulator for developing an edge application. So one thing that it will contain is like Edge Simulator 1.4.0 APK. That APK you need to install it on your simulator device. Second is the jar file. So Edge Simulator 1.4.0 .jar file. Now this jar file you need to replace it with the actual Look SDK jar file within your application. Third step is you can run the Edge Simulator APK to see if that's working fine on your edge device. Now, once you perform all the three steps above, then on the fourth step, within your main application, you need to use the shared user ID, and these steps within the step 4 is all because of the security reasons. From Android M onwards, the permission architecture that got changed. So we need to make sure that the Edge Simulator application as well as your application can talk to each other. So for that, you need to use the shared user ID within your application, your edge application that you're creating, and then in the metadata file you can you need to mention the maximum width and height as 100 dp, and then there is this command that you need to run in order to make sure that both can talk to each other. So, and finally, instead of using the default signing key for creating your APK, you need to use the signing key which is there in the tools folder, and these are the alias and the password for your signing key. So how it works, once you install the Edge application, the APK that is provided within the tools folder, once you install that on the simulator, once you launch it, you will see list of all the Edge application installed on your device within that application. And you can enable or disable it from there. So So since the two APK, the one APK that you created and the second APK that comes with the folder needs to talk to each other, that's the main reason why we need to perform the step 4 and 5. So a quick video of a sample application that we'll be creating today. So this is the Edge screen, and this is the sample application that we'll be creating today. You can go into this screen and you can see when I'm pulling it down, it refresh the screen, refresh the items within the screen, and I can even press and hold on any of the list item to, again, that's like a long click for refresh. And then there is on the bottom you will see long press option, long press button that can even be pressed for longer duration to refresh the list item. So this is the sample application that we'll be creating today. Now let's move on to the next slide. So these are the links from where you can download the source code. And the second is the step-by-step guide. You can even download the step-by-step guide and just go through it and copy and paste the codes within your new application, and you'll be able to create this application. So now let's start creating this sample application. Okay, so I'll go ahead. So this is the step-by-step guide which I already downloaded, and I'll be using this guide today in order to develop the sample application. So let's get started. This is the Android Studio which I'll be using for developing the sample application. I'll go in like start a new Android project, and I'll just use this name of the application, and it can be anything. It's up to you guys what you guys want to use. I am saving my sample app in the downloads folder named as same as the application, Look SDK sample app. Click on the next button, and if you notice, the minimum SDK that I've used is API level 24, which is Android Nougat. The reason is the pull to refresh API and the long press APIs are only available in Android N. So we'll go ahead and use the Android Nougat. And here it says about the type of activity that I want to create. So the Edge application, as it's all based on the remote views, so it doesn't mean that it'll always have an activity. It depends on the type of app. If it is just a standalone Edge application, then it will have no activity. And if it is a combined application, then it might have it'll have activity as well. So let's get started with the no activity option, and I'll tap on finish. Now, while this it's creating a project for us, let's go and get the required jar file, which I've already downloaded. Let's go to the download folder, and here are the two jar files that I would need. So, okay. So our sample project is created here, and now I'll start actually adding in the resources file in here. So I'll go to this and the downloads folder here, and Look SDK, the sample app that we are creating right now. Then I'll go to the builds and libraries folder, and I'll paste both the jar file in here. Okay, so you can see that the jar file I've already added. The next step is adding those jar file as a dependency within the Gradle build script. So I'll copy this code and come to the Gradle build script and add the dependencies in here. It'll ask me for syncing the project. I'll sync up the project, and while it's doing it, let's go back to our step-to-step guide and see what are the next steps. So next, we'll be adding the resources file, the image resources that we'll be using for this project. So let's bring it back. Okay. I'll go in here. I have the drawables in here. So One is the button shape, that is the button that is located at the bottom of the edge panel, and the second is the preview image. So I'll copy both the resources and I'll come to the resources folder and I'll paste it into the drawable. Click OK. So this is the PNG image, that is the preview image, and the second is the button shape, which is the button that we created using the XML file. So far we added both the jar file, we added the resources file, like the images, and we added the dependency. The next step is going to be creating the layout file. So let's go and create the layout file. Okay. Or we can do one thing, we can even add the metadata before moving on to the layout file. So this is the metadata for the edge panel, and it doesn't matter the sequence of the step. We could have even created the layout file before doing the metadata thing, but let's just follow the step-by-step guide here right now, just to make sure. Okay, so I've just created an XML folder and I'll be creating a new metadata file in here, and we will use it as widgetinfo.xml. So right info. Okay, so this is the metadata file, and let's okay, so I just added a metadata file in the XML folder that I just created. And next, now it's going to be creating the layout file. So the first one is for the list item, as we are showing the list in the sample application. So this is the list item named, and we are going to name it as widget item, widget_item. So let's go in here and create one more folder. Okay, and we'll name it as layout. Okay, and here we are going to add a new resource file in this folder, and the resource file name is going to be widget item. So let's make sure we do it correctly. Copy the content and widget item. I'll go back in here and then new layout resource file, name it as widget item. Okay, that's created the, and again this is for the each list item. The next one is for the entire list view, for the entire the list view that we'll be showing. So let's just do it. So widget layout, come back, create a new resource file, widget_layout. Let's make sure that we are using the right name. Okay, and then click OK and paste the layout file. Okay, just a quick recap. So far we have added the layout files, we have added all the image resources that we need for this application, we have added a metadata file inside the XML folder and named it as widget info, and now we are going to work on the source code. So let's go on to the next step. So the first class is the weather data model. This is the data model that we have created, as each list item will contain the day and the temperature data. So let's just paste it here and then I'll explain about the code. So you can see that there are two things. There is a string D and then degree. So D represents the day and the degree is the temperature. And again, it's all random. It's all like done locally. So no backend API calls. Okay, so and the next class is going to be the remote views factory. So the remote view factory is the class where we actually declare all our list item. We set up the items. So let's just create this class and then I'll talk more in details about what it does. I'll go in here and I'll just paste it. Okay. So remote views factory is how we fill up the data in the list view in remote view. And you can see that it's somewhat similar to the standard list view that we create in Android. It has an onCreate where we are setting up the initial list item as naming it as day using the weather data model class, and then at the get view at. So this error is showing up because I haven't updated the string files yet, but this will be fixed once we update the strings file. And this is the get view at where we are adding up all where we are filling up all the list item, like the temperature data as well as the day information. So let's move on to the next class file that we need to create. The next one is widget service. This service we need to actually implement to bind the remote views factory class that we just created. So this will bind the remote views factory to the remote views. So let's just paste it. Okay. So as you can see that we are binding the factory using the remote views services. So this is what it does. And next is, finally, this is the most important class which extends the slook cocktail provider. And this is where we implement all our logic, like what we want to do, like pull to refresh, long press, and everything. So I'll again walk you through to the details. Let's go back here and I'll go in here and paste it. So slook cocktail provider is the actual class which extends the slook cocktail provider. And this is the build layout that we are using for building the layout items and setting up the pending intent. You can see that we are doing the long press pending intent code in here that I already demoed in the previous slides. And we even have the long press for the button. This is in here. And this is the pull to refresh thing. And it's done on the on update. So that's it. Let's move on to the strings file. I believe that we have missed the string files. So let's just update the string files and that will fix all the errors that we are getting so far. I'll go back. So this is the strings file that we haven't updated yet. So I'll go in and copy and go into the values and go strings, and so I just now updated the strings, and this should fix the errors in all the files. So yeah, and again these all overridden method is because of the slook cocktail provider that we extended in our class, and we want to override the different events that we have, like on update, on enable, on disable. So there is nothing much that we are doing in on enable and on disable. So that's just the standard format that we followed. But we are doing a couple of things in on update and on receive. We are setting up all the pending intent and the listeners for it. Okay. And the final step, it's going to be updating the manifest file. So we'll go in the bottom and update the manifest file. Okay, so this is our manifest file. Come in here and I'll take the manifest file, just copy it and come into the manifest. And I'm going to date it here, paste it. So again, let me just quickly explain you the package. It's the standard thing for Android. The permission, it's because of the permission architecture change after Android M. So we need to mention this user permission in order to allow the slook SDK to have the right permission and initialize itself. Second is the application icon and the name. That's quite standard. The next thing is the receiver class. So this is actually the one which extends the slook cocktail provider. So this is the provider, slook cocktail provider, the widget provider class, and this is mentioned in here. needs to have, as we are developing the Edge single plus, so that's the reason why we are using the intent filter that has the veto in it. Then there's a metadata that defines about different various properties about this Edge panel. So this is the XML file that we just pasted in here. So just see the preview image that will shown in the background once the user install your Edge panel, the label, the name of the application, the description about the application once the user tap on the panel, and the width. So these are the content of the. So this is about the receiver class. Then we are using a service to fill in the item, to fill in the list view item, and we are binding it using the remote view services thing. So this is the factory where we are creating the list view, and then we are actually binding it using the remote view services. So that's pretty much it. Now let's see. So we are done with the sample application. Now you will see that there is a red cross showing up at the top. The reason for that showing that red cross is like in most of the cases, the Android Studio assumes to launch the main activity once you run the application, but this application doesn't have any activity in it. So we need to come in and do nothing once the application is installed and do apply and OK, and you will see that the issue is fixed now. Now let's bring up so I'll click on the play button, it's from the device, and I'll install the Edge application. You can see it says installing application at the bottom. Now let's bring up the device, launch the Edge panel, tap on the gear icon, and activate the Edge panel. Now you can see in here, this is the sample application that we just created. And let me show you the logs in here. So once I'll bring back the Edge application, if I refresh it, you will see what events has been called and how we are refreshing it. So, and long press on the button, and it again refresh the list view, and we have even implemented the long press on each list item. So tapping on it, it will refresh the list item. So very simple application of this links available in here, and those are for the source code that we just demoed today. The step-by-step guide is available in there that you can use for creating the sample application. And these are some important links about the next step. That's where, so the very first link, bit.ly/edge webinar, that's where you can get this webinar details, the slides in the PDF format, as well as the YouTube video link for today's webinar. It's going to be available probably later today or by tomorrow early morning. Then there is a Seller Office link. Once you create your application, you want to publish it, that's where you go to publish or create an account. Join HTTP is you can go in and sign up for the Samsung Developer Program, that is Join HTTP. Create any tickets, any issues, any concerns for today's webinar, like any feedback you might have, or anything that you want to know about the Edge application, you can just submit as a ticket. The upcoming webinar is for Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. It's going to be on April 20th, and for more webinar resources, you can go to bit.ly/HTTP webinars. So, and we just announced for our upcoming Samsung Developer Conference event that's going to be on October 18th and 19th. For more details, please go to stc2017.com. So that's pretty much it for today, and sorry for the last minute issues that we had with our tool. That's it. Thank you.